I think most of the time a beginning improviser is more interested if they get caught by this music, if they hear something in this music that they really love, they get caught by it, and what they want to do is they want to have the fun of picking up their horn and trying to play along with it. And usually it'll be a record or these days a CD or an iPod or something they've downloaded, and something just grabs them, and they want to get their horn and they want to play along with it. The reason I'm saying this is because most of us who learned to play this music didn't learn by going to a college or a high school improvisation course and learning it from the books and learning all the scales and the chords and the arpeggios and so on. We learned by trying to copy the people whose music we really enjoyed. So many of the beginning improvisers really aren't thinking about, what it is they're trying to do. I think most of the beginning improvisers really just they hear something and they want to play it. And from that point, they pursue it from the standpoint of it being an exercise in fun. It's a way to have fun with your music, and if they get really serious about it, and through their trying to copy this player, and they're gaining some good ear training where they can respond to what they hear and copy, usually they'll hear something else that also grabs their attention, and they'll want to master that particular one, and it's a process that goes on and on. Recorded music and the different mediums that we have today make that a very, very easy process for most players. But to your question about the beginning improviser, for instance, I know a lot of people who've been playing their instruments for maybe 12, 14 years. They're in their late 20s, and all of a sudden they make an intellectual decision that they want to learn to improvise, as opposed to the kid who made an emotional decision to try to play this music. These people have a very difficult time for several reasons. First of all, they don't have they've built up defenses of trying to play their instrument, so they're going to worry about whether they sound good. A young person who's maybe 12 or 13 years old, like I was when I was trying to copy all the records that my brother had in his record collection, I didn't care who heard. This was all about me and having fun and enjoying what I was doing. For a beginning improviser, the most important thing, I think, is if you are one of these people who has already formed some mastery of your instrument, you've been playing for a while, and you make this intellectual decision to improvise, you have to also make the decision that you really want to listen to this music. You can't play this music if you don't listen to it, because this music is a language. What Richard and I just played was a conversation we were having with one another. Everything that he did, even whether it was under the melody that I was playing, or whether it was playing under me while I was improvising, I was listening to, and my improvisation was responding to him as we would in a conversation. And even when he was playing by himself, I was listening to everything he was doing, and that was going to influence what would happen in the last minute decision for us to trade fours together. So when you go to learn a language, you have to think, well, how did I learn to talk? You learn to talk by ear, by hearing the sounds around you, and at a certain point in time you started to maybe form a word. After on, maybe something a little more into phrases and so on. And by the time you're maybe 3 years old, you're talking pretty well. By the time you're 5 and get into kindergarten, you're pretty conversant with the language, and you have never studied the theory or the grammar of it. So by the time you're 8 and you've been talking 5 years and you start to learn a little bit about grammar, then conversationally you understand what the terms mean. I mean, if you didn't have to be able to speak before you learned the grammar, if you didn't have to be able to play jazz, improvise to some extent before you got into the theory, then why don't we just take a baby who's a year old and throw a dictionary in the crib and they would learn to talk? So hearing the music and listening to the music is the number one step. Being infected by the music and becoming addicted to it is part of that. It's the next part of the process. Once you have that and you understand what it takes for you to improvise, which is a great deal of it is in the ear, in training and being able to hear something and respond to it. In other words, to hear Richard play a chord, and my being able, without looking at his hands or knowing what he's playing, but being able to play over the top of it has to do with what my ear has been trained to do. And so for a beginning improviser, I think the most important thing is to, number one, listen to the music, and if you become infected by it, then your own instincts will tell you what to do. If you don't have the feeling that I want to run to my case and get my horn out and play what that player played, then you don't want to improvise. For me, in my own playing, and when I talk to young people who are studying or anyone who comes to me for a lesson, I try to approach this through the application of classical practice. In other words, if I don't have any mastery of my instrument in the sound that I play, in the sound that I project, if I'd have no mastery of the instrument as far as the technique of the instrument is concerned, if I have no idea of what melody and lyricism is, or any of these things, then how am I going to approach trying to learn this music? Because the people that we admire and the ones that we want to hear most and to copy are the people who project all of these things. They are masters of their instrument. Someone like Clark Terry, who has just always been a phenomenal musician, and yet lyricism, technique, range, whatever it is, but it's never about those things. It's only about the music. So as a person who wants to play this music, it is very important that they start to master their instrument, and the best way to do that is basically with a classical approach, whether you're a trumpet player or a piano player. I'm sure Richard would be the first one to say that if you don't know how to pedal a piano, how can you work with different touches that you don't play the same touch playing a ballad like Body and Soul that you would in playing All the Things You Are, or if we did an up-tempo tune like Oleo, Sonny Rollins' tune, I'm sure he would have a different approach for all those, as would I. So if you don't have any mastery of your instrument and what the instrument requires of you to make the different sounds, then you're going to have a difficult time being able to express yourself in a musical way.